All right, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video, another NBA postseason video. In this video, we're going to talk about the playing games from the last couple of days. We're going to talk about some winners, some losers. We're going to talk about some of the consequences for some of these losers. We're going to talk about some of these consequences for these teams that have moved on, even though the future is uncertain. We're going to talk about that. And yeah, so if you like what I have to say, like the video. If you have any opinions, comment it down below. And if you just like the vibes, consider subscribing. I apologize for the noise in the background. Again, my street continues to be the busiest street in my state with there's always something going on out there. Anyway, I do want to clarify some things before we get into this because the play-in is confusing at times and you might be wondering why are some of these teams grayed out? Why are some of these teams still in color? Well, I'll tell you right now, it's a little bit of a spoiler. I'm going to try to break down the play-in once more for you guys so you guys understand what is going on. So, the Blazers played the Phoenix Suns, and the Blazers won. The Blazers move on, and they're in the playoffs. They are the official 7th seed now, and they will play the Spurs. Now, the Clippers lost to the Warriors. The Warriors will play the Phoenix Suns, who lost to the Blazers for the 8th seed. That's on Friday. Warriors versus Suns for the 8th seed to play Oklahoma in the playoffs. Now, for the Eastern Conference, the 76ers beat the Orlando Magic, so they are the 7th seed playing Boston at some point in the future. And then above them, the Charlotte Hornets beat the Heat. They will play the Orlando Magic, the losers that lost to 76ers, for the 8th seed to play the 1st seed Pistons. So that's the clarification. So when I start talking about these games, you guys know what's going on. So it's hopefully not too confusing. The main thing is Blazers won, Sixers won. They're both 7 seeds in their respective conferences. And now the fight for the 8th seed is on Friday. Golden State versus Phoenix, and then the Charlotte Hornets versus the Orlando Magic on Friday as well for the 8th seed in the East. So there's a clarification for all of that. Now, let's get into some games here. Get into some games. All right, so yeah, let's talk about some basketball. The first game I want to talk about is an overtime game, the 9 versus the 10 seed, the Miami Heat versus the Charlotte Hornets. The Charlotte Hornets won this game in overtime, 127 to the Miami Heat's 126. This was such a exciting game because Charlotte was hopping. It was loud in there. It was exciting. I haven't seen that Charlotte crowd that excited since Kemba Walker was there. This team really wants to go to the playoffs. These fans really want to go to the playoffs, and they fought for this game. And the biggest storyline from this game is that Bam Adebayo was, however you look at it, was tripped by LaMelo Ball early in this game, and he went down an awkward way where his feet were just taken out from under him and he landed on his tailbone, and he did not return to this game. Now, people are saying that, like, if Bam plays this game, the Miami Heat win it. I don't necessarily know if that's true. The Charlotte Hornets team was flying around the court. They were doing everything they were supposed to do and more. They got some really good minutes from I think their longest tenured player on this team, Miles Bridges, 28 points, 9 rebounds, 2 assists, 3 blocks. He was everywhere. He had some critical plays down the stretch as well. He had I think it was a crazy like layup he had that I saw. It was crazy. And Brandon Miller, 23. Brandon Miller looked really legit, even though the percentages weren't good. He was 9 of 17 from field goal, 5 of 10 from 3. But he just kept shooting it. He kept making them. 5 rebounds, 5 assists for him. LaMelo Ball, 30 points. Horrendous efficiency. Horrendous. Absolutely horrendous. It didn't even feel that bad when you were watching the game, but when you're looking at it right now, it looks really bad. 12 for 31. And then Con Knipple, only 6 points, 2 of 12 from field goal. Did not make a single three. He looked gassed out there. He looked very tired. But this Charlotte team, I had them winning this game. I didn't expect obviously to be in this fashion. I didn't expect Bam Adebayo to get injured and them sort of I won't say run away with the game, but The energy of the game always favored the Charlotte Hornets. You might be able to say that's because they were at home, but the Miami Heat did have some really good runs in there. But they just they looked like a team without their best player, and I'm going to give a lot of credit to Andrew Wiggins. Um, 27 points. He felt like Mr. Invisible at times, where like the 27 points really didn't like impact the result at the end. You were just like, oh, Andrew Wiggins almost had 30. Good. um, he had 7 rebounds to go with that, 3 assists, no turnovers, and only 2 fouls. And then you go down to Tyler Hero here, 23 points, 7 to 18 from field goal, 3 of 6 from three. Had a couple chances late in the game to give this team the lead in regulation and in overtime, and it just didn't click. And I don't necessarily want to deep dive into this game, but I do like to talk about what's next for the teams that are exiting the postseason and eventually the playoffs. And obviously, we'll talk about the Miami Heat and the Clippers and what's next for them. That'll take up a majority of these first couple games here. But I do want to say this Heat team felt strangely competitive, and they were mediocre all year. And this was the first time I think I watched them, and at least for 11 minutes, the whole team was healthy. They had a team of Davion Mitchell, Tyler Hero, Andrew Wiggins, Bam Adebayo, and Khalil Ware. That's their best five, and that's their starting five this game. And they played some of the most competitive basketball I've seen the Miami Heat play. I mean, earlier in the season, they were running some very interesting stuff offensively, getting into the possessions very quickly, getting on the court very quickly, and then it's sort of slowed down throughout the course of this season. And I didn't really know what to think about it. I think everybody just caught up to their scheme and what they were doing, and then obviously they trailed off all the way up until like after All Star break, and then you had the Bam Adebayo 83-point game, and like you feel on top of the world, and then I feel like this team, as good as this team could have been, and as mediocre as it was, um, I felt like this team is full of a bunch of players, no offense, that just aren't good enough. Like Andrew Wiggins is a nice player. I had some really harsh words for Andrew Wiggins previous to me having this channel and previous to him being an NBA champion and playing a really huge role in that Warriors team in 2021, 2022. But Andrew sort of like can be invisible at times. Tyler Hero just hasn't improved since his rookie year, and I know that's something that's been reiterated a lot of times is that he just hasn't improved. He's just the same player. He just does the same things, and this game you could really see that. If you pull up a clip from his year two stuff to this year, where he was injured for a vast majority of it, but it looks very similar and it looks the same, and it just doesn't feel like he's taken that next step and doesn't feel like he will take that next step. And the one of the bigger players in this game, the leading scorer for this team, who I haven't mentioned yet, who played 48 minutes and played both ends of the floor, was Davion Mitchell. Davion Mitchell had 28 points, 4 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 steals, 1 block. He was critical to why this game even went to overtime. He was really impactful in overtime, and you traded for him just like off the cuff, just like, oh, he just got him in a trade. He was a throw in a trade, and he's one of the bigger players in this game. And I'm not. He's not necessarily invisible, but like you got a bunch of these players, and I know, these rotations are kind of shortened because it was a win or go home game, and they went home. But I every time I've looked at this roster for the Miami Heat, I'm like, I don't really love any of these players. I don't love Simone Fontecchio. I don't like Jaime Jaquez. I don't know what he does out there. He shoots threes, I guess. He's a floor spacer. He just doesn't like do it for me. Norman Powell, all-star Norman Powell. Um, Stinker, 11 points, 5 of 9 from field goal, 1 of 2 from three. Um, Pele Larson, 6 points. I just don't love this roster, and I think the Miami front office shares this sentiment. We'll get to that in a minute. And what is it fair that Bam Adebayo got injured in a win or go home game off some BS play? Um, it's not fair, but life's not fair. And here's the thing about it, right? If the Miami Heat played better basketball all year, they wouldn't have to be in this situation. They wouldn't have to be in the play-in, and that goes for a lot of these teams. It's teams like the Warriors, teams like the Orlando Magic, where like if you just play better basketball, and like granted, like you just have to be healthy, and sometimes that's what it comes down to as well. But if you just play better basketball, you wouldn't have to be in these situations, and you wouldn't have to ask yourself these questions, and you wouldn't have to go into every offseason wondering what the hell is next for this team. And that's a question that the Miami Heat are going to have to answer, and I will talk about in a second. But I do want to give some respect to the Charlotte Hornets for going out there, playing the way they played. Their coach, I'm really liking their coach this year. He's full of energy, full of life, has them playing the right way, has them doing the small things. I saw like the post game locker room stuff that he was saying, and he was really inspiring. It was really good. He has these young players, their mental on the right track, and going towards something bigger that like we won this game, cool, but we want to go to the playoffs. Just winning this game isn't the biggest part of our season. We want to do more. We want to do bigger things, and talking about the defense, talking about all the small things that they did all game, and obviously, when you have a lot of your better players not shooting the ball the best, but giving it all in different ways, that's what wins you these games. And the Bam Adebayo injury did help, no doubt. Maybe this is a double overtime game and they still win. Maybe it's a regulation game and the Heat win. I don't know. But that's full of ifs, and we don't deal in ifs. Off the bench for the Charlotte Hornets, Kobe White, 19. He was the guy who sent them to overtime. Hit a crazy three. It was a grenade from one of his teammates, and he just kind of threw it up, and it went in, and the place went crazy. It blew up, and it was already blowing up, but it was really nice to see that for Kobe White, who perpetually is on these kind of weird teams, or has been on two weird teams at this point in the Chicago Bulls and now the Charlotte Hornets. But um, it felt different. It felt different for Kobe in a Charlotte jersey because he's literally just been there. He's just got there. He's played a couple games, maybe like a dozen games, 2 dozen games for this team, and to hit one of the big, it will be remain to be seen, but maybe one of the bigger shots in franchise history to send them back to the playoffs, where they have the longest standing drought of missing the playoffs in the NBA currently. So maybe that will come down to Kobe White and that shot, and we'll look back on that shot and be like, he took them to the playoffs. um, some other things that came out after the game. Um, the NBA was looking into LaMelo Ball, seeing if he intentionally tripped Bam Adebayo. It came out. They came out with a result. They didn't intend. He didn't intentionally do it. He did not get a um, a suspension or anything. I think he got fined 60K, and then maybe I think he got a flagrant one added to his record. So no real punishment for him. But LaMelo's not so much the looked upon as like, oh, this nice young player, and these actions have consequences, and the microscope is on you now, and we'll see if you can deliver. I mean, I don't like the efficiency and the types of shots he takes, but getting to 30 points in a big game when you just need every little bit, especially when you only win by 1 point, is commendable. So congrats to LaMelo Ball. Let's circle back to the Miami Heat and talk about them for a little bit. And what's next for them? And it came out yesterday, I believe, so one day after the game they played, that the Miami Heat are ready to go all in on a big star this offseason. And everybody's touchable except Bam Adebayo, who will be untouchable in trade conversations. We've heard this song and dance before if you've been following the NBA. The Miami Heat always are monitoring the situation. They're always interested in X player, Y player. We've seen this all before. We saw they wanted Damian Lillard, they wanted Bradley Beal, they wanted Kevin Durant, they wanted at some point Kyrie, they wanted who else am I forgetting? PG. They wanted, the list goes on and on over the last like maybe like was it 6-8 years at this point, where they're just like, we're interested in this player, and then their trade package just isn't very good and they can't pull it out. Um, if I have to really look at this team and think differently about them because they're perpetually in this situation where they are in the play-in and they are like trailing the upper echelon. They're not in the upper echelon like they used to be. They're trailing it. And I have to look at this team and I have to break it down and I have to be completely honest with myself. Um, the future isn't bright for this team. I mean, Bam Adebayo's in his prime, so he's a big star player. Um, Khalil Ware, his minutes have been up and down. Eric Spoelstra doesn't really trust him for some reason. And Khalil Ware has to prove it himself and be more consistent. But um, in the situation the Miami Heat are in, where they don't necessarily want to be bad, they want to be competitive, a guy like Khalil Ware is going to suffer because if they were actually trying to be bad and they were tanking, he would actually play more and he would get the experience minutes that he needs. But since they're not trying to be bad and they're continually trying to be mediocre, he has to get pulled out of games where he could probably learn something if he stayed in, whether you win, lose, or whatever. He could probably learn something, but they can't do that, and Eric Spoelstra doesn't trust him. And I think at this point, I think I said this in another video too. I don't. I've maintained on this channel for however long I've been on here is that like Eric Spoelstra is the best coach in the East. Uh, that title's starting to wear a little thin. I'm looking at around the East, and there are some really good coaches that are doing some really innovative things. And a coach is only as good as his roster, but Eric Spoelstra has turned, water into wine, and he's made made these mediocre teams really good. And you could say that was thanks to Jimmy Butler, that was thanks to Dwayne Wade, that was thanks to all these other factors. And he's not really that good of a coach. I think he's a really good coach, and I just think maybe it's time to actually reshuffle the deck. And this isn't my long, convoluted way of saying trade Bam Adebayo, but this is my long, convoluted way in saying you need to tear it down. It needs to a whole redo. It needs a whole new fresh coat of paint. It needs a whole new situation of if you look at it like you're designing a room in a house. You need to throw out all the furniture. You need to throw out all the stuff on the wall. You need to throw out the light fixture. You need to get new curtains. Everything needs to go. The TV can stay, and the TV is Bam Adebayo. He can stay. You at least need the room to be functional. You need something to do in there. But everything else around there, you don't need. Throw it out. It's done. It's over. Tyler Hero was a fun little experiment. It was fun while it lasted. He's just not improving, and he can't stay healthy. And if I was in the front office, this is the last thing I'll say about it. If I was in the front office, the only two people I would really want to keep is like Bam Adebayo and Davion Mitchell, and then maybe like one of these young guys, like I don't even know, Kasparis Yakachones, Simone Fontecchio, like maybe just to see what they could maybe but possibly turn out to be. But other than that, everybody can go. Everybody's on the table. So yeah, Miami Heat eliminated from the play-in, from the playoffs, and they will head into the offseason with a lot of questions to answer and maybe not so many answers for them. Moving on to the next game here. The first night, these games took place in the same night. Hornets versus Heat, and this next one, Trailblazers versus the Phoenix Suns. Trailblazers won this game 114 to the Phoenix Suns 110. The Phoenix Suns, however, are not eliminated from playoff contention. Like I said, they have one more chance. They have to play another game to maybe have the opportunity to play Oklahoma in the first round, but the Portland Trailblazers do move on to play the San Antonio Spurs, and what a great matchup that's going to be. We'll see what the Blazers can do. A lot of these guys, this is their first playoff experience. Is going to be their first playoff experience. They have a lot of impactful guys like Drew Holiday, like Jeremy Grant. That's about it about the older guys, and not only is that going to show in their series against the Spurs, but it will show up. It did show up when they played the Phoenix Suns last night. The Phoenix Suns have all the experience, all the knowledge. Devin Booker been to the finals. Dylan Brooks been in a lot of competitive playoff series. Jalen Green, some ish playoff experience, maybe. No, I don't remember. I don't remember if he made. Royce O'Neal, a lot of playoff experience, and both teams ran their teams pretty. I guess yeah, pretty strict, pretty limited in who they wanted to play, and this game became a real battle of attrition. That's the word I'm looking for, right? Attrition? Yeah, attrition. Um, my biggest complaint about this game, from the loser's perspective, from the Phoenix Suns perspective, and they have both. Like I think I said this in my my pregame stuff for this, my prediction video for these games is like both these teams have young head coaches. This is their first time being a head coach. Portland Trailblazers have an interim head coach. Phoenix Suns have a first year head coach officially, Jordan Ott. Um, and it showed at times because I've watched this Trailblazers team a fair bit, and they always seem to like gain these really intriguing leads where it maybe be like a 2 point, 3 point, 5 point, 10 point lead going into halftime, and then they kind of fall flat in the third, and then they wake back up like at the beginning of the fourth, and they're like, oh yeah, right, we got to win this game. And sometimes they shoot themselves in the foot and they overshoot the ball. They don't share the ball. They don't do this. They don't do that. They don't get fouls called, whatever it may be. But in this game, it all worked out for them. It all worked out for the Blazers, and they they took the Phoenix Suns. They took them out. They took them down a peg. Um, Everybody on this team played well. I mean, Dylan Brooks had 20. Devin Booker had 22. Jalen Green had 35, even though it's not terrible efficiency. Jordan Goodwin had some really good defensive moments. He was really impactful. I really wanted them to win this game. This is going to sound crazy. So I could see more Jordan Goodwin because Jordan Goodwin's a really good player, I think, at least on the defensive end. And then Mark Williams. Mark Williams had a bit of a stinker. He had 4 points and 4 rebounds, and he was not in the game in crunch time, and he only had one personal foul. Um, I don't think he looked lost out there. I just think this game, they prepared for Mark Williams so well because they just kept him off the glass and they kept him disengaged from the offense so he wasn't engaged on the defensive end. And when Mark Williams can't be engaged on the defensive end because he's not getting his offensive touches, that's when you've won the game. Because Mark Williams just isn't used to being in these high octane situations where um, it's win or go home. He was in Charlotte the first couple years of his career. They didn't do anything, so it's kind of hard for Mark Williams to get involved in the game when he doesn't have it going all the time. And there are games where Mark Williams is engaged on both sides and he looks really good. And there are other times where he isn't, and he has games like this where he has 4 points and 3 blocks and 4 rebounds. Um, Not great. Not great for Mark Williams. The other thing about this game, man, oh man, it's about my guy Devin Booker. Devin Booker, Devin. Um, I'm growing more impatient with Devin Booker and his unwillingness to take big shots anymore. He doesn't take big shots. He used to be a really big shot guy. Like, he would take any shot and he would go in and he would fall to the floor and the crowd would erupt. And at the end of this game, Devin Booker had the chance. He was at the top of the key, working, dribbling. He dribbled into some traffic. He dribbled into two defenders, his initial defender and then another defender. And he stopped. He looked up. He saw a bigger defender with his hand up. And he turned. He tossed it out to Jalen Green. They only needed a 2 to tie it and go to overtime. The 3 would have won it. And he turns, he pushes it out to Jalen Green. Jalen Green takes it. It's off. They miss it, and the game's over. I hate to do this. Just take the shot. I understand. Like, I don't know. I can't ever tell you my perspective on it because I've never had like a 7 foot guy just standing there with his hands up right by the rim as I'm falling away taking a shot. I can't tell you that. What I can tell you is, it's win or go home. Just take the shot. No offense, I'm not trusting Jalen Green. Jalen Green hasn't been in these moments, dude. He hasn't. Devin Booker, you've been to the finals, dude. You've been to the finals. You've been in so many competitive games. I understand that in the past, when you used to kick it out, right? When, with other teammates you've had, it used to be Kevin Durant. It used to be Cam Johnson. It used to be Mikal Bridges. It used to be Chris Paul. These guys aren't here anymore. They're not. They haven't been here for a very long time now. And it's time to go back in the lab, Devin Booker, and practice those shots. Because I know you can make them. I know you can make them. Everybody that's listening to this knows you can make them. But you kind of defer. You're doing too much deferring. and you're being a good teammate by deferring, but sometimes you gotta say, nah, this guy hasn't been in this situation. Our season could end right now. I need to just take this. I need to take, as the leader on this team, as the all-time leading scorer for the franchise. I need to take this shot, and he's made the most. He has the most points in franchise history. What's missing? One shot. You know what I mean? And that's what frustrated me most about this game is the end of it. It just wasn't good. It wasn't good. It was sloppy. It was disorganized, and you can get away with that stuff in the regular season. And the sloppy and the disorganized stuff does fall on the coach. I will give him grace. This was his first time in this kind of situation, and yeah, the Suns got away with a lot of these games, these exact kind of games in the regular season. This is the postseason. The Blazers obviously wanted it more. I'm not saying the Phoenix Suns didn't want it. They played a really competitive game. They had a really competitive season overall, and a season that I don't think a lot of people thought they would have, including me. But to end like this, it just leaves a sour taste in your mouth. And Devin Booker goes into another offseason early, and we'll talk about what's next for this team in a second. And then off the bench, you had Colin Gillespie, 5 points. Oso Ighodaro, 3 points. Royce O'Neal, 7. He had a really good three in the corner, the one that he made out of three he took. And then for the Blazers, and then we'll circle back to the Phoenix Suns and talk about their future. Um, or they're not eliminated. I should recorrect that. The Phoenix Suns aren't eliminated. Devin Booker isn't heading quite into the offseason early yet. It's going to happen eventually. We'll put it that way. Again, the reward for winning the next game for Phoenix is playing the Oklahoma City Thunder. So there you go. I misspoke there. I apologize. Moving on to the Blazers. Blazers move on. They're the seventh seed. They get to play the Spurs. This Blazers team. What else is there to say, man? I'm not the biggest fan of Denny. I personally don't like the way he plays. Uh, it reminds me of players I don't like in general. So I don't like the way he plays. But the energy he brings is great. The force that he plays with is really good. Um, the energy that he brings, he lifts the whole team up. Even like a guy like Donovan Clingan who has 2 points in this game, 29 minutes. He has 11 rebounds. And let's see, how many offensive does he have? 6 offensive, 5 defensive. Um, that's because the energy was good and he was involved. If Denny missed a shot, he got the offensive board. Um, a player I do really like, and a player who's having like his third or fourth like prime right now as an NBA champion, former NBA champion, on his, what is it now? Fourth team? Yeah, fourth team. Jrue Holiday. 38 minutes, 21 points. I think the oldest player on this team that actually played. I think maybe Damian Lillard is the oldest, but he's not playing. So the oldest player that played that night. Um, he looks he looks so good. I am so jealous. Jrue Holiday looks really good. He looks like he's having the time of his life. Even though initially he didn't want to be in Portland, he looks like he's having the time of his life. He has the ball in his hand. He's playing his really high level defense. He just looks great out there. And I always talk about this when I watch Jrue Holiday. I talked about it when he was on the Celtics a little bit, but now I really talk about it because he's on a team that, well, I should say is not bad, but is like a lower seed in the playoffs, and largely won a lot of games because of him. Um, I think about the quote from Jrue Holiday a couple years ago, when he was still in Milwaukee. I think that was what 2023, something like that. He said, "After this contract is over, I'm gonna retire." And it was kind of obvious that he wanted to retire because he had his family. His wife had just gone through something very traumatic, and he wanted to be at home. And then, obviously his stuff with Milwaukee falls apart. He gets traded to Boston. They win another championship. When you win another championship, you're on top of the world. You're like, I can play a couple more years. And then he gets another big contract. It's like, well, I kind of have to play a couple more years. And then the Boston thing sort of falls apart because they have to sell off some of their more expensive pieces because of the Jason Tatum injury. And then he ends up in Portland. and now he's playing really good basketball again. And he looks like Milwaukee Bucks. He looks like New Orleans Pelicans Drew Holiday. And Drew Holiday is I think I've said this as well, is like if I had to pick a career to have, I really wouldn't want to be like a really like notable player, like a real like all-star or anything. I just want to be a good defensive guy and take some big shots and make some threes and be on some really good teams. I'd want to be Drew Holiday. If I had to pick a career, Drew Holiday's his career isn't too bad to have, and he's on this team playing very well, and he's a big reason why this team is so put together, so confident in late game situations. Is because of Drew Holiday, and it's also because of Danny. I don't want to discredit what Danny does, especially in crunch time in this game. Um, Threw up some really big shots, got to the lane, did what he did best, and this team and this coach, um, Tiago Splitter, um, started the season really rocky. Their coach got caught gambling, and he was out, and they brought in the interim head coach, Tiago Splitter, and Tiago has done an amazing job. And this team is weirdly put together. And I had this question before in like the preseason, like preseason to this season stuff, where I was like, what's this team gonna do if they're really good? And then Dame has to come back next season. What are they gonna do? And now they're in that situation, but it still feels good. You don't have to answer those questions yet. You have Shaden Sharp 12 points. You have Jeremy Grant 16 points. You have Scoot Henderson 9 points in one of his not so great games. But yeah, this team is so well put together, and it's really well coached. And Tiago Splitter returns to San Antonio, this time as a coach, not as a player. And we'll see if Coach Tiago Splitter can outcoach um, Mitch Johnson of the Spurs. We'll see. That's going to be a very interesting coaching matchup. The player matchup, I'm not too concerned about, but the coaching matchup, the management might be different. Let's talk about the Phoenix Suns. What's next for them? Or actually, we don't. We don't have to because they're not eliminated yet. We'll save that for another day. Moving on. Moving on. Orlando Magic versus the Philadelphia 76ers. Oh, man, oh, man, oh, man. Man, oh, man, oh, man, oh, man. Was this game embarrassing? um, the Philadelphia 76ers won this game 109 to the Orlando Magic's 97. The Philadelphia 76ers without Joel Embiid. It was just was Paul, did Paul George play this game? Yeah, Paul George played this game. Yeah, he played this game. Um, without their main guy, and I said this in my video predicting this video. I was like, it's gonna be VJ, it's gonna be Tyrese, it possibly could be Paul George. That's gonna have to go out there and win this game, and it's gonna be a bunch of the others. You know, the others being like Andre Drummond, Quentin Grimes, Dominic Barlow, Adem Bona, Kelly Oubre. Um, and I definitely, I'm almost like 100% I picked them to win this game, right? I'm gonna have to go back and check. But this wasn't so much about the Sixers. Sixers, I'll give you a round of applause. Very good job. Very good job. Very good job. Very good job. They took care of business at home. They're wearing the throwback black jerseys. Looked great. Everything was great. Um, Tyrese Maxey looked halfway decent. At least he looked like Tyrese Maxey out there. VJ Edgecombe looked really good, 19 points. Tyrese had 31. VJ amazing on defense this game. Paul George pitched in with 16. Kelly Oubre had 19. Andre Drummond had 14. There's another Andre Drummond moment we'll get to in a second. But man, this game, it feels like every game for the Magic is like an embarrassing game. And I feel so bad for them. And I look back at the beginning of the season, and I had them winning 50 plus games. Well, it wasn't. Was it 50? I think it might have been 60. It might have been 60 plus games. I don't remember. It was a high win total, and I was like, this team has so much offense. They have so much defense as well. What could go wrong, right? Well, everything went wrong. uh, they're 45-37 on the season officially. They play this first play-in game, or this playing game, and it leaked. Not leaked. It was like announced unofficially, officially. Like Coach Jamal Mosley is gonna lose his job after this, no matter what happens. They could go to the finals and he would lose his job. Um, and I don't think Coach Jamal Mosley is the problem. Like we said with the Phoenix Suns and the Portland Trailblazers, um, coach is only as good as the roster that's been constructed for him by the front office, and the coach can only do so much. And I, I, I like to give a coach a little grace because it's very hard to be a coach. There's only so many job opportunities to be a head coach in the NBA. And there are only so many times you get to go around on the carousel before you're kicked off and you have to go coach somewhere else, whether it be college, overseas, wherever, right? Or just be an assistant coach. I think Jamal Mosley is a good coach. I think this team, as much as I loved it in my preseason stuff before the beginning of the season, is a mess. Is an absolute mess. And everything that I wanted to happen, that I hoped would have happened in the off season, last off season, to make this season better for the Magic, did not happen. It just didn't happen. Paulo doesn't have a three ball. Franz attempts threes at least in efficient manner. Um, Desmond Bain, at least Desmond Bain looks good, but he isn't like changing your franchise. And my point with Desmond Bain being on this team was that he wasn't going to change your franchise. He was supposed to like if Desmond Bain could have 30 in this kind of game, because we've seen him have 30 in other games as well, in playoff games, um, it would be in addition with Franz 30, Paulo 30, uh, both of those guys having 20 or 30, with Desmond Bain 30. And you're like, oh my God, that's so much offense. That's really good. And it just looked awful this game. And then you have guys in your starting lineup like Wendell Carter, 5 points. Jalen Suggs, 4 points. I know he's your point of attack defender. I know he's your like defensive guy. I can't be having my starting point guard have 4 points in a game like this. I just can't. You bring in guys like, even though I love Tristan De Silva 4 points. Jamal Cain 5 points. Goga Bitadze 2 points. Tony Orlando, Anthony Black 13 points. Um, some of this stuff is unacceptable, and some of it does fall on the coach. But I'm looking at the rest of the guys they maybe possibly could have played. Who else? They're gonna play Richardson, Jet Howard, Noah Penda in this sort of game. No, 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 no. You can't do that either. So the coach is in a rock and a hard spot, and the coach is probably gonna get fired after Friday. It's probably gonna come out and meet. They're not even gonna let him get back on the team plane. He's just gonna be stuck well, I think they're playing at home. They're gonna be stuck in at home in Orlando, and they're gonna have to play Charlotte. Right? They're playing Charlotte. Yeah, they're playing Charlotte. The and everybody's poking fun at the Orlando Magic, and also the other thing that happened in this game. It was at the end of the game, and it really summed up their season. It was late game. The Sixers got a good defensive possession. Somebody else was running up with the ball. They missed the shot, and Franz Wagner had just gotten back. Had gotten to the other side of the floor where the offense was happening, and he had stopped. He was waiting, like just stopped, and the center that Wendell Carter is ran down the floor to try to help the other offensive teammate, their teammate, clean up the glass or something. Got there, he missed the shot, and then he came back down. And as he turned around, Wendell Carter knocked knees with Franz Wagner. And of course, it was the knee that's been giving Franz Wagner problems for like 3-4 months now. And Franz Wagner goes down. He's like has his head down on the scorer's table, and they take him out of the game. The game was over anyway, but that really just summed up the Orlando Magic season. It was like they just couldn't do anything to help themselves, and they couldn't stay out of their own way. And this was a horrendous season for the Orlando Magic. And no matter if they make it in the playoffs or not, I said this in my other video. I was like, I hope the Pistons play Charlotte, because that'd be a better series than playing the Magic. Because the Magic are just in turmoil. They're a disaster right now. They are on course with, they're the Titanic. They're just on course with the iceberg, and there's nothing they can do. They're just gonna have to let it hit, and the ship has to sink. It has to sink, and one of those victims of the sinking. That sounds horrible. I'm so sorry. That's a tragedy. One of the victims of the sinking is gonna have to be Paulo or Franz, and people are on Paulo's ass right now. And as somebody who has a Paulo jersey in their closet, it hasn't come out all season for obvious reasons. It's been in the closet. Um, as somebody who has a Paulo jersey and was really hopeful for this season for him, this was this game was it was a tough watch. It's been a tough watch all season to try to watch Paulo, but it was an even tougher watch trying to watch him summons it up when he's never summons it up. You know, he's never like done like the LeBron Miami stuff, the MJ on the Bulls stuff. You know, those like sort of iconic things that you think of when you think of like franchise players, you know, who win you games. And we will talk about another franchise player who won them a game in another series, in another. I'm rambling too much. I'm sorry. Paulo. Paulo looks like very early on LeBron in Cleveland, where he was just all like getting downhill, maybe a couple mid range jumpers here and there. Um, he looks like maybe like 60% of that version of LeBron. And that version of LeBron was really good, but that version of LeBron knew he had to get better. And Paulo doesn't realize that he has to get better. And whatever he did to be the number one pick, it worked in college, right? It doesn't work at the NBA level. It doesn't. It's been there's so much of a sample size now that we know that what Paulo does doesn't work at the NBA level, and he needs a full jump shot rework. He needs a full like a full rework of his mechanics because he's just so stuck in like dribble, 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 um, face up, back turn to you. You know, he needs to do something different with almost his entire game, which isn't going to happen in one off season, but it isn't going to happen in one off season, and I don't know. It's going to be Franz Apollo this off season. Maybe not. Maybe in the future, but it's not the coach's fault. And I look at Paulo sometimes, and I see like a James Harden esque player in the sense of like he thinks he's really good. And at least James Harden had the hardware to back it up. Paulo doesn't have any hardware. He has a couple All Star appearances, so what? Um, where like I forget. I think it was like after the Clippers got eliminated by the Mavericks, and they had like this post game thing, and like one of the commentators was like James Harden, you're not the franchise, you're not the system, you're the problem. And I hate to say it, Paulo, you're the problem. And changing the coach isn't going to help it. You might put a band aid over it for half a season. You might be a really good team next year. When the chips come down to it and you're in a really tough postseason game, it's going to be like this again. I almost guarantee it. And for the rest of the team, um, if it's not Paulo and Franz getting traded, it's going to be like Jalen Suggs, Wendell Carter, some of these young guys. They need to bring a point guard and they need to bring a real adult into the room. Um, and I say that lovingly. With this team, this collectively they might have enough minutes played together, but they don't have the experience. They need an adult. Desmond Bain is a nice player. He's a cool player, right? He's an older player. He has a bunch of playoff experience, but he doesn't have winning playoff experience. You need to bring somebody in who has winning playoff experience, and we'll see what's available in the offseason for Orlando. They have to win on Friday to be in the playoffs, and th- this team feels so disjointed and so awkward. I feel like the Charlotte Hornets can just walk into Orlando and just run over them, absolutely just run over them. And Jamal Mosley might get circles coached around him um, by Charles Lee of the Charlotte Hornets. Um, Moving on to our last game. I didn't expect this to be a 40-minute video, but here we are. Um, to a very sentimental game for me, and a very sad game for Clippers fans. Um, Golden State Warriors versus the Los Angeles Clippers. The Golden State Warriors got the win, um, 126 to the Clippers 121. The Clippers outscored the Warriors um, only one time, and that was the first quarter. It was very close in the second quarter, 30-31, scoring wise, and then the second half happened, and this video is gonna be this latter half of the video is gonna be very convoluted and very long and longer. Not necessarily talking about the game, but talking about my feelings about the game. So if you don't want to watch, if you don't want to hear me ramble about the Warriors, thanks for watching. You can click off now, like the video. If you do want to hear me ramble, hello. So second half, I had this game on and like I was watching it. I was watching it on my TV and then I had something on my laptop that I was watching. I had this game on in the background and the Warriors were getting their butt kicked and like there were some nice moments where like the Warriors took the lead in the second quarter and it was like, oh nice, okay, and then they got beaten down again and Kawhi was doing his thing. Darius Garland was doing his thing. Um, Chris Dunn, really good defensive game. Derek Jones had 13 points. Brook Lopez had 17 points. Benedict Mathurin had 23 points. And you look at the the surmounting lead that the Clippers had, and going into halftime, I was like, I don't know, I might have to just turn the volume off on this game and just put it on, like officially put it on the background and focus on what I'm doing on my laptop. And then going into the second half, it started happening. It started happening for this Warriors team. Um, Al Horford started hitting some really big threes. He was 4-7 from three, 14 points in total. Kristaps was going all night. He didn't really play in the fourth quarter. Um, he was resting a little bit. I don't know why he was resting in this kind of game, but he played 28 minutes, 20 points. He deserved a little bit of rest, but he didn't really get back out there to close out this game. At any rate, and it started happening. The Warriors started making a run. I kept asking myself, why is Brandon Podziemski out here? But whatever. Guy Santos had a really good game, and it started the Warriors momentum started turning, and the Intuit Dome, the home of the Clippers, started turning as well, and it felt it felt so weird to watch this team do it one more time. Um, Steph Curry, brilliance in the fourth quarter. Draymond Green, brilliant defense in the fourth quarter, locking up Kawhi, who had it going all night. He was just getting whatever. As soon as Kawhi got a switch, he was taking whatever guy it was to the basket, whether it was Brendan Podzimski, Gary Payton, and DeAnthony Melton. He was taking everybody to the rack. Kawhi played 40 minutes, 21 points, 1 of 6 from three, 5 turnovers. Two of those turnovers came in the latter half of the game, the critical part of the game. And Darius Garland had fouled out at some point midway through the fourth, end of the fourth, so he wasn't out there. And the Warriors took the momentum. Steph hit some amazing threes. And this game was absolutely, it felt like a last hoorah for this team. A last really feel good moment. And um, I said this in my like prediction video for this game. I was like, it's gonna be Steph Curry, it's gonna be Kristaps, it's gonna be Draymond Green, and they're gonna try to go out there and play the hardest they can. And I wanted them to lose this game. I just wanted the season to be over for the Warriors because there's no point in banging your head against the wall and then you break through the wall and then the Oklahoma City Thunder are there and you get swept by them. That's embarrassing. It's not embarrassing to lose in the play, and it's disappointing, but it's not embarrassing, right? Because you're all like mediocre mid teams that barely made the playoffs. So like it's not embarrassing. It's embarrassing to get beat by Oklahoma. Um, that's neither here nor there. This win for the Warriors felt like the last hurrah. It felt like, and funny enough, it was against the Clippers, a team the Warriors have dominated for the last 10 plus years, and they did it one more time. They did it when the Clippers were at Staples Center. They've done it now into a dome. It was a crazy feeling, and you could see how much this game meant to everybody on the Warriors, whether they had been there for 10 plus years, whether they've been there for a year, 2 years, 3 years. This game meant something, and they wanted to continue to play basketball, and I think that was the biggest thing about this Warriors um, game against the Clippers is not that they wanted it more, but they had the composure. They dug really deep into what they knew, what everybody knew what they had to do. They dug super deep. Al Horford just stood in the corner and and whenever he was slightly wide open, he went up and he took the shot and he made it. That's what Al Horford does at this point in his career. And that's what he's done a lot of his career since he's gotten a 3 point jumper, but um, he didn't do anything out of character. Guy Santos played defense and got the ball to Steph Curry and Draymond Green. That's all he needed to do. Brandon Podziemski was doing cardio out there. Kristaps Porzingis hit a couple threes, got down the lane, created some penetration, kicked it back out. Draymond Green, again, really good defensively. Steph Curry didn't really have it going all game. He went back to the locker room at some point, but he came back out. This stat line for Steph Curry is the most Steph Curry stat line you'll ever see. 35 points, 4 assists, 1 rebound, 3 turnovers, 1 steal, 4 personal fouls, 12 of 23 from field goal, 7 of 12. At times it was horrendous, and you could blame it on the refs who didn't really officiate the game well for Steph Curry. They never do, but that's neither here nor there. He came out and he wanted it, and he did it his own way. He didn't do anything out of character. Even when he took these stupid threes and it hit the rim, and it's like, why are you taking that? And then he started making it, and you're like, oh, God, yeah, of course he's making that. Yeah, just not historic, a vintage game. And I think we've all had the pleasure, whether you're a Warriors fan or not, whether you're a Steph Curry fan or not, you've been on the other side of this where Steph Curry goes nuclear. We've had the privilege to have watched the prime version of Steph Curry, and this is considered a vintage performance now, where he is at the latter stages of his career, and he can still get them over the hump somehow. And also shout out to Draymond Green on defense. The Clippers. This wasn't an embarrassing loss. This wasn't. I mean, it was a Clippers-esque loss, but what else is new? This was just a very hard-fought game for them, and I don't think they did anything wrong this game. They had a really bad scoring drought in the fourth quarter, and that's what led to the Warriors winning. There was some foul trouble with Darius Garland, like I mentioned. He had 21 points, though. He hit some dagger threes that made me think the game was over for the Warriors. And then Darius obviously had to sit for a majority of the fourth. 8 assists, 5 rebounds for Darius as well, and then 1 steal as well. Kawhi Leonard, 21 points, 7 rebounds, 5 turnovers, again, 3 assists. Derek Jones, 13, Brook Lopez, 17, Chris Dunn, 7. Really good defense on Steph Curry and on some other guys as well. And Benedict Mathurin, 23 as well. This game was nothing to be ashamed of. You do go into the offseason prematurely, officially, for the Clippers. It's over. I don't have a lot of questions for this Clippers team. I think they know what they want to do. And they want to try to hold on to Kawhi as long as possible. Try to stay in this sort of zone with being competitive, but also gaining some young talent and nurturing some younger talent in Benedict Mathurin and Darius Garland. And maybe they'll try to move a little bit younger. It seems like they're trying to head in that direction, especially with guys like John Collins, who's been on the team, Derek Jones, who's a fair bit younger. But moving off guys sort of like Brook Lopez, Nicholas Batum, Bogdan Bogdanovic, keeping guys like Isaiah Jackson, Kobe Sanders, and maybe trying to bring a little bit more youth and a little bit more, even more athleticism, because they're already a pretty athletic team. Even when they are just running Brook Lopez at the 5, they are still a pretty athletic team. So I don't have any thoughts for them right now. Maybe I'll have to mull it over and think about it. But I don't have a lot of like worries about this Clippers team, even though they're in a weird spot. It feels like they do have a direction, and that's good. And you missed the playoffs by, well, now I guess like 1 game, 2 games, but for as wacky of a season as it was, excuse me, oh my God, for as wacky as a season as it was, it turned out okay. And with this loss, the Clippers do give the Oklahoma City Thunder a lottery pick, which is unfortunate, but at the cost of another Steph Curry vintage game, I'll take it personally. So yeah, that's I did not expect that to be this long, but here we are. Again, the next games for the NBA will be on Friday. The playing games: Warriors versus Phoenix and Charlotte Hornets versus Orlando Magic. Who will take the 8th seed to win the prize of playing the number 1 team in their respective conferences? We'll find out then. You guys might get a video about this on Saturday. I'll see if I can make time for it and stuff. But yeah, that will probably be it for this week. We'll see. Maybe you'll get a surprise video. I don't know, on Friday. We'll see. I am, as you can tell, my voice is absolutely shot. I sounded like Doc Rivers there for a second. So we'll see. But yeah, the end screen should be popping up right now. If you want to check out the playlist on your right, it'd be greatly appreciated. If you want to check out the video on your left, it will probably be, I don't know. It'll be a video. You click on it, you'll like it. I promise. And the icon right in the middle of the screen, my icon. If you click on that, a little subscribe button will pop up right next to you. You can hit that as well for to follow along for the rest of the WNBA, my WNBA content and my NBA postseason content. So yeah, like, comment, and subscribe as well. And I'll see you all next time. Cheers.